Have you ever heard of a book so strange, so powerful, that it was left out of the Bible? A book filled with stories of angels falling from heaven, of giants walking the earth, and of secrets that most churches never talk about. This book is real. It's called the Book of Enoch. Most people have never read it. Some haven't even heard of it. And yet, it's one of the oldest and most mysterious writings connected to the Bible. Inside, it tells the story of angels who were sent to watch over the earth, but broke their promise to God. They came down from heaven. They fell in love with human women, and together they had children, giants called the Nephilim. These giants didn't just live among people. They ruled them, and eventually, they destroyed everything around them. The Book of Enoch explains where demons come from. It shows why the world became so broken before the Great Flood. It even talks about a final judgment coming in the future. But here's the question. If this book is so important, why did the church decide to hide it? Why is it missing from almost every Bible today? The truth is both amazing and uncomfortable. And by the end of this video, you'll understand what was in this book, why it was left out, and how its message might be more relevant today than ever before. So take a deep breath, and let's open a book that was buried for thousands of years, a book that whispers secrets from the ancient world, the Book of Enoch. Let's start with something simple. Who was Enoch? Enoch was a man who lived a long, long time ago, way before Jesus, way before Moses, even before the flood that Noah survived. In the Bible, Enoch is mentioned only a few times, but what it says about him is strange and beautiful. It says, Enoch walked with God, and then he was no more, because God took him. That's it. No death, no grave, just gone, taken by God. That's why some people believe Enoch didn't die. He was so close to God, so full of goodness, that God simply brought him to heaven alive. Now imagine if that man, who walked with God, wrote a book. That's what the Book of Enoch claims to be, a collection of writings and visions from Enoch himself. And it's not just a story. It's full of wild things, angels who come to earth, giants who destroy everything, a peek into heaven, and a promise that judgment is coming. The book was written thousands of years ago, maybe even before the flood. It's not in your Bible. But here's something interesting. Some parts of the Bible do quote it. The book of Jude, near the end of the Bible, actually uses a direct line from the Book of Enoch. So the people who wrote the Bible definitely knew about it. Early Christians read it. Some believed it was true. Even some of the people who helped shape Christianity respected it. But today, most churches never talk about it. It's not read on Sundays. It's not printed in the back of your Bible. And many pastors won't even mention it unless you ask. So again, we're left wondering, what's in this book that made people so uncomfortable? And if Enoch truly walked with God, why would we ignore his words? A long time ago, before cities, before kingdoms, and even before the flood, the world was still young. God had created the earth, filled it with animals, rivers, stars, and people. But he also created angels, powerful, beautiful beings made of light. Some of these angels were given a very special job. They were sent down to earth, not to live like humans, but to watch, to protect, to help guide and teach. These angels were called the Watchers, but something went wrong. The Watchers looked at the world and saw how beautiful it was, and they saw the humans, especially the women, and something began to grow inside their hearts. Curiosity, then desire, and then something dangerous, disobedience. You see, these angels were not supposed to live like humans. They weren't supposed to love or marry or have families on earth, but they wanted to. So they made a secret plan, 200 angels in total. They gathered together on the top of Mount Hermon, a tall mountain near ancient Israel. There they made a pact, a promise. We will all go down together. If one of us does it, we all do it. That way, no one can be blamed alone. And just like that, these heavenly beings fell. They left their places in the sky. They came down to earth, and they took human wives. But that was only the beginning. The Watchers started to teach people things that were never meant to be known. They taught them how to make swords and shields, how to fight wars, and how to create weapons. They taught secrets about stars and magic, the use of roots and potions, charms and spells. It wasn't wisdom, it was corruption. What God had made pure was now being twisted. And the children born from these angels and human women, they weren't normal at all. They would become something the earth had never seen before. A long time ago, before cities, before kingdoms, and even before the flood, the world was still young. God had created the earth, filled it with animals, rivers, stars, and people. But he also created angels, powerful, beautiful beings made of light. Some of these angels were given a very special job. They were sent down to earth, not to live like humans, but to watch, to protect, to help guide and teach. These angels were called the Watchers, but something went wrong. The Watchers looked at the world and saw how beautiful it was, and they saw the humans, especially the women, and something began to grow inside their hearts. Curiosity, then desire, and then something dangerous, disobedience. You see, these angels were not supposed to live like humans. They weren't supposed to love or marry or have families on earth, but they wanted to. So they made a secret plan, 200 angels in total. They gathered together on the top of Mount Hermon, a tall mountain near ancient Israel. There they made a pact, a promise. We will all go down together. If one of us does it, we all do it. That way, no one can be blamed alone. And just like that, these heavenly beings fell. They left their places in the sky. They came down to earth, and they took human wives. But that was only the beginning. The Watchers started to teach people things that were never meant to be known. They taught them how to make swords and shields, how to fight wars, and how to create weapons. They taught secrets about stars and magic, the use of roots and potions, charms and spells. It wasn't wisdom, it was corruption. What God had made pure was now being twisted. And the children born from these angels and human women, they weren't normal at all. They would become something the earth had never seen before. The children of the fallen angels and human women were not ordinary. They were huge, giants, so big that their heads nearly touched the clouds, so strong that they could tear down trees and smash mountains. The Bible calls them Nephilim, and the Book of Enoch describes them in frightening detail. At first, these giants looked like heroes. People admired their strength. Some even worshipped them like gods. But soon, things began to change. The Nephilim were always hungry. They ate more than any animal could supply. They ate whole fields of crops, flocks of sheep, herds of cattle. And when there wasn't enough food, they turned to eating people. Yes, people. The earth began to fill with blood. Everywhere the Nephilim went, they brought chaos. They crushed cities. They turned brothers against each other. They made humans fight, kill, and steal. And it wasn't just what they did, it was what they taught. These giants, like their angel fathers, began to twist everything God had made. They started to mix animals and humans. They experimented with life itself, creating monsters and strange creatures. The world was no longer a garden. It was a nightmare. The people cried out. The animals cried out. Even the land itself seemed to groan under the weight of violence. God had made the world good, but now it was broken, all because of pride. Because angels chose desire over obedience, because power was placed in the wrong hands. And the Nephilim, they ruled without love, they destroyed without care, and the world was being eaten alive piece by piece. But God was watching, and his heart was hurting. He would not let this go on forever. God had been watching everything. He saw the angels break his commands. He saw the giants crush the earth. He heard the cries of mothers, the groans of animals, and the pain that now lived in his once beautiful world. And even though God is patient, even though he is full of mercy, there comes a time when he says, "Enough." So he called his mightiest angels, holy ones who had not fallen. angels with names full of meaning and power. Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel. They were sent on a mission to stop the destruction, to bring justice, to bind the fallen. One by one they hunted the watchers. They found them hiding in shadows, scattered across the earth. And with glowing chains made by God himself, they bound these once beautiful beings. The fallen angels fought, but they were no match. Their strength had come from heaven, but now heaven was against them. They were dragged to dark places deep beneath the earth. The Book of Enoch says they were thrown into pits of gloom, in valleys of fire and stone. There they would wait, not for freedom, but for judgment. And what about the giants, the Nephilim? God didn't forget them. To wash away the evil, he sent a flood. Rain poured from the skies. Water burst up from the ground. The earth shook as the oceans rose and swallowed mountains. The Nephilim, so tall and strong, were powerless against the waves. They drowned, every one of them. But something strange happened. Their spirits didn't disappear. The Book of Enoch says their souls remained, roaming the earth, angry and restless. They became what many today call demons, spirits that hate, that whisper, that still wander in the shadows. The earth was clean again, but the story wasn't over, because the truth had already been buried, and some would try to keep it that way. Now you might be wondering, if the Book of Enoch talks about all of this, angels, giants, demons, judgment, then why isn't it in the Bible you read today? That's a very good question, and the answer is a little complicated. Let's go back to the early days of the church. Back then, people didn't have one finished Bible like we do now. They had many scrolls. Some were letters, some were prophecies, and some were ancient books passed down through the ages. The Book of Enoch was one of them. In fact, many early Christians read it. Some even saw it as truth. And remember, the Book of Jude, which is part of the Bible, actually quotes directly from Enoch. That means the first followers of Jesus were definitely familiar with this mysterious book. But over time, things changed. As the church grew, leaders started asking a big question: which books truly come from God? They met in groups and prayed and debated, and slowly they put together what we now call the canon, the official list of books in the Bible. When they looked at the Book of Enoch, some church leaders got nervous. They said things like, "This book is too strange. It talks too much about angels, stars, and secrets." What if people focus more on the fallen angels than on Jesus? What if it causes confusion? Others simply thought it was too old and didn't fit with the rest of the Bible. So, it was left out. Not because it was evil, not even because it was false, but because they weren't sure. That's why most churches today don't teach it, but not all churches made that choice. In Ethiopia, the Book of Enoch was never removed. To this day, their Bibles still include it, alongside all the books we know. So it makes you wonder, was it really hidden or just forgotten?